The baby was never supposed to survive. Not because the pregnancy was impossible, not because the town is cursed, but because the child growing inside Fatima may be the one thing this place has feared from the very beginning. That sounds impossible until you look at what From has actually been showing us. Everyone believes Fatima's pregnancy is just another horrifying mystery, a supernatural event, a twisted miracle, or maybe another cruel punishment designed to break the people trapped inside the town. But what if they're asking the wrong question? What if the mystery isn't? What is the baby? What if the real mystery is? Why is the town trying so desperately to control who this baby becomes? And once you start looking through that lens, every strange moment surrounding Fatima begins to tell a completely different story. Because this isn't just a pregnancy. It's a battle over the future of the town itself. And this is where it gets darker. The creatures have always hunted people in predictable ways. They stalk. They manipulate. They smile. They wait for someone to make one terrible decision. That's their pattern. But with Fatima, the pattern changed. Suddenly, the horror wasn't outside the house. It was inside her. Look at what the show is actually telling us. Fatima's pregnancy never followed normal rules. Her symptoms appeared at impossible moments. Her cravings became disturbing. Her emotions shifted without warning. Even the people around her couldn't explain what they were seeing. Most viewers assumed this proved the baby was evil. But that's the conclusion the town wants us to reach. Because fear changes how people make decisions. If everyone believes the baby is a monster, then nobody asks a far more dangerous question. What if the baby isn't becoming something? What if something is trying to become the baby? That tiny difference changes everything. Throughout From, we've seen the town infect people long before it physically attacks them. Dreams, voices, hallucinations, memories. The town rarely destroys someone from the outside first. It gets inside their mind, inside their emotions, inside their fears. So, why would it treat an unborn child any differently? This is the detail everyone missed. Whenever the town creates something unnatural, it doesn't simply create life. It creates influence. The worms didn't just infect bodies. The music box didn't just trap victims. The cicadas didn't just attack people. Every supernatural force we've seen has tried to reshape human behavior. That's the real pattern. Control. Not destruction. Control. So when Fatima became pregnant under impossible circumstances, the question shouldn't have been whether the child was human. The question should have been, who gets to shape the child's identity before it's even born? Because that's exactly how influence works inside this town. Long before people lose themselves physically, they lose themselves psychologically. And maybe the baby is experiencing the exact same process. But here's what changes everything. Think about every major player connected to Fatima during this pregnancy. Ellis became increasingly protective. Donna became increasingly worried. Boyd became increasingly desperate to understand the supernatural forces around them. Everyone's behavior shifted. Almost as if the pregnancy wasn't only affecting Fatima. It was pulling the entire town into its orbit. That's incredibly strange. A normal pregnancy creates concern. This one created strategic reactions. People began making decisions differently. Conversations changed. Priorities changed. Hope returned for some people. Fear consumed others. Almost overnight. Why? Because whether anyone realized it or not, everyone instinctively understood that this child mattered. Not emotionally. Cosmically. And that's not the real mystery. The real mystery is why the town allowed the pregnancy to continue at all. Think about it. This place has shown countless times that it eliminates threats quickly. People disappear. People die. Entire families are wiped out in a single night. The monsters don't hesitate when something threatens their balance. So, why wasn't Fatima immediately killed? Why protect her long enough for the pregnancy to develop? That decision makes no sense. Unless the town also needed the baby alive. Now suddenly both sides share the same objective. Fatima must survive. But for completely different reasons. The survivors want to protect the child. The town wants to claim it. And those are not the same thing. Look back at how From constantly presents cycles. Children repeating history. Parents repeating mistakes. Characters unknowingly following paths already walked by others. The town loves repetition. Not because repetition is symbolic. Because repetition creates predictability. Predictable people are easier to manipulate. But a newborn represents something terrifying to any system built on cycles. A blank beginning. Someone who hasn't accepted the town's rules. Someone whose future hasn't been written. Unless someone writes it first. That's why Fatima's pregnancy feels different from every other mystery we've seen. This isn't another curse. It's a race. A race between two forces trying to define one life before that life ever gets a choice. And if that's true, then the child isn't simply the next victim of the town. The child could become its next ruler. Or the one person capable of breaking its control forever. Because sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the strongest survivor. It's the first person born into the nightmare who has the power to change what the nightmare becomes. And once you notice that possibility, every scene involving Fatima starts pointing toward an even more terrifying truth. But here's what changes everything. We've been treating Fatima's pregnancy as if it began the day she realized she was carrying a child. That assumption feels natural. It's how pregnancy works in the real world. But has never followed the rules of the real world. What if the pregnancy didn't start with conception? What if it started the moment the town chose Fatima? That idea sounds extreme. Yet the series has repeatedly shown that people are marked long before they understand what is happening to them. Boyd carried the worms before he knew what they truly meant. Sarah heard voices before she understood who, or what, was speaking. Jade saw impossible visions before he recognized they were connected to the town's past. The pattern is always the same. The town acts first. The victim understands later. So, why should Fatima be any different? And this is where it gets darker. Think about Fatima before the pregnancy. She represented something almost nobody else in the town could maintain. Hope. Even after endless death, endless fear, and endless nights hiding behind talismans, she still believed people could live instead of merely survive. She laughed. She celebrated. She reminded everyone that life still had meaning. That wasn't just part of her personality. It was a threat, because hope is dangerous and from. Every time the survivors begin believing escape is possible, the town responds. It introduces a new horror, a new vision, a new impossible event. Almost as if the place feeds on hopelessness and immediately attacks anything capable of weakening its grip. Look at what the show is actually telling us. The monsters don't simply kill bodies. The town kills certainty. It wants every survivor to believe resistance is pointless. It wants them exhausted, divided, broken. Fatima was the opposite of all those things. She kept people connected. She gave Ellis something worth fighting for. She gave newcomers proof that happiness could still exist inside a nightmare. Now, ask yourself a dangerous question. If you wanted to destroy the symbol of hope without killing her immediately, what would you do? You would transform hope into fear. And that's exactly what happened. The pregnancy didn't make Fatima physically weaker first. It made her question herself. Her own body stopped feeling familiar. Her own instincts became unreliable. The woman who once comforted others suddenly needed constant reassurance herself. That psychological shift matters more than any supernatural symptom. Because the town always attacks identity before it attacks flesh. This is the detail everyone missed. Fatima wasn't only changing. Everyone around her was changing too. Ellis became consumed by protecting her. His world grew smaller. Every decision revolved around keeping her safe. That's understandable for an expecting father, but obsession is rarely just emotion. It often becomes a weakness the town can exploit. Look back at Boyd. His love for his family has repeatedly been used against him. Look at Jim. His determination to protect his children constantly pulls him into greater danger. Even Victor's childhood love for his mother became the foundation of decades of trauma. Love is powerful in this town, but it is also predictable. And predictable people are easier to manipulate. Now think about Donna. Donna has always been practical. She makes impossible decisions because someone has to. Yet when Fatima's condition worsened, even Donna struggled to separate emotion from strategy. That isn't weakness. That's evidence. The pregnancy affected the emotional balance of the entire community, almost like a stone dropped into still water. Every person connected to Fatima created another ripple, another consequence, another opportunity for the town to reshape the group. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. What if that wasn't the town's original plan? What if the town expected Fatima to completely surrender? Instead, she kept resisting. She kept holding on to herself despite impossible pain, despite confusion, despite fear. That resistance may explain why the pregnancy never unfolded in a simple, predictable way. Because two different forces could have been pulling the child in opposite directions. One force trying to create a perfect vessel, the other trying to preserve an innocent life. And suddenly every strange symptom starts looking less like corruption and more like conflict. A battle happening where nobody could see it, inside a child that hadn't even been born yet. That's not the real mystery. The real mystery is why the town has always placed such importance on children. Victor survived when almost everyone else died. Ethan experiences visions adults cannot explain. The boy in white appears to children and to adults who still possess a childlike willingness to believe. The Angui children remain central to the deepest mysteries of the series. Children are never random and from. They are always connected to knowledge, to memory, to the future. So if the unborn child of Fatima belongs in that pattern, then this pregnancy isn't an isolated event. It's the next chapter in a story the town has been telling for decades, maybe even centuries. And that's terrifying, because it means the baby's fate may have been decided long before Ellis and Fatima ever imagined starting a family. But if destiny has already chosen this child, there is still one question the town may not be able to answer. Can a child born inside the nightmare choose a different future than everyone who came before? Because if the answer is yes, then the greatest weapon against the town may not be Boyd's courage, or Jade's intelligence, or Victor's memories. It may be someone who hasn't even opened their eyes yet. And if that's true, the people trying hardest to protect the baby may unknowingly be preparing the moment that changes the rules of from forever. But here's where every piece finally comes together. The biggest mistake we've all made is believing the town is trying to create monsters. It isn't. The town is trying to create successors. Look back at every supernatural force we've encountered. None of them feel completely random. The monsters follow rules. The boy in white follows rules. The visions appear at specific moments. Even the trees seem to move people according to a purpose rather than pure chaos. That suggests something unsettling. This place isn't driven by madness. It's driven by a system. And every system eventually faces the same problem. It has to survive. That changes everything. If the town has existed for generations, then it can't depend on the same creatures forever. It needs new pieces to keep its cycle alive. New people to replace old ones. New minds that understand its rules without questioning them. What if Fatima's baby is the first time we've actually witnessed that process from the beginning? Not the birth of another victim. The birth of someone the town hopes to shape into its future. And this is where it gets darker. Think about Victor. Victor survived longer than anyone else.
Why?
Most people believe it was luck. Others believe the boy in white protected him. But maybe there was another reason. Victor grew up inside the town. The place watched him develop. It observed every fear, every memory, every loss. Almost like it was studying him, testing him, waiting to see what he would become. Maybe Victor was the first experiment. Maybe Fatima's child is the second. This is the detail everyone missed. Every major mystery in From revolves around inheritance. Not money, not family names, but inherited knowledge. Victor inherited memories no one else possesses. Ethan inherited the ability to recognize patterns that adults ignore. Jade inherited a mystery that belonged to someone who came before him. Even Boyd inherited responsibilities that constantly grow heavier with each new discovery. Nobody chooses these roles. They receive them, almost as if the town assigns every person a place inside a much larger design. So, where does Fatima's baby fit? Maybe not at the end of that design. at the center of it, because unlike everyone else, this child would be the first person whose entire existence is connected to the town before birth. No outside memories. No normal childhood. No life untouched by the nightmare. That makes the baby completely unique. But uniqueness creates another possibility. What if the town has made the same mistake every villain eventually makes? Overconfidence. Look at what the show is actually telling us. Every time the town tightens its control, someone discovers a new truth. Boyd found the worms. Jade uncovered symbols. Victor remembered forgotten events. Tabitha discovered paths that were supposed to stay hidden. Every attempt to strengthen the system accidentally creates another crack in it. So, what if Fatima's pregnancy becomes the biggest crack of all? Because control is never perfect. The moment another living mind exists inside the town, something unpredictable enters the equation.
Choice.
The town may influence. It may manipulate. It may whisper, but has never completely erased free will. Sarah resisted the voices. Boyd refused to surrender. Tabitha kept searching for answers. Again and again, human choice disrupted the town's plans. So imagine a child raised by people who have already learned those lessons. A child protected by Ellis, guided by Boyd, surrounded by survivors who understand exactly how manipulation works. That child wouldn't simply inherit the town's curse. The child could inherit the survivor's resistance. And that's exactly what the town should fear. Because the most dangerous enemy isn't someone trying to escape. It's someone who has never accepted the prison in the first place. That explains why the pregnancy feels so different from every other supernatural event. This isn't just another horror story. It's a power struggle. Two futures are competing before the child has even taken a first breath. One future belongs to the town. The other belongs to the people still refusing to surrender. And whichever side wins may decide what happens to everyone trapped there. Now think about the title of the series itself. From. Everyone asks where the monsters come from, where the town came from, where the visions come from. But perhaps Season 4 is quietly asking a different question. Who will the future come from? Maybe the answer isn't hidden in the lighthouse, or the faraway trees, or the caves beneath the town. Maybe the answer has been growing in front of us all along. Inside Fatima. If this theory is right, then the baby's birth won't simply introduce a new character. It will force the town to reveal its true purpose for the first time. Because once that child enters the world, the system can no longer stay hidden. It will have to act. It will have to choose. And that choice could expose secrets that have remained buried since the very first people became trapped there. But there's one final question that refuses to go away. If the town has spent all this time trying to shape Fatima's child, what happens if the baby is born and chooses neither side? Because that may be the one future From has never prepared for, and the one future that could bring the entire nightmare crashing down.